Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to today's candidate forum for the Illinois Second Congressional District. My name is Janelle Hooper, and I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director of the Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce. Today's event is co-hosted by the Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women Voters of Illinois, and the League of Women Voters of Homewood-Flossmoor area. 3 organizations committed to informed civic participation and a strong, inclusive democracy. While none of these organizations endorse candidates for public office, our shared goal this afternoon is simple: provide voters in the Southland with an opportunity to hear directly from the candidates in a fair, respectful, and informative setting so that you can make your own well-informed decisions at the ballot box. Before we get started, I would like to take a moment to thank our sponsor, whose support makes gatherings like this possible. A special thank you to Owlsbury Consulting Incorporated. We'd also like to thank Moraine Valley Community College for allowing us to host the forum in this space today. And we'd also like to thank the volunteers who, without their support, we wouldn't be able to navigate this day. Your investment in civic engagement and in the future of Chicago's Southland region is deeply appreciated. The race for Illinois Second Congressional District, which includes many communities here in the Southland, this district has historically encompassed parts of Chicago's South Side and numerous South suburban communities. And the candidates before you today are seeking the responsibility of representing this diverse and dynamic area in the U.S. House of Representatives. On behalf of the Chamber and our partners at the League of Women Voters of Illinois and the League of Women Voters of Homewood-Flossmoor area, I want to thank all of the candidates who have joined us this morning and who are willing to put their ideas before the public. We appreciate your time, your commitment, and your willingness to engage directly with others. I will now turn it over to the League of Women Voters of the Homewood-Flossmoor area.
Thank you, Janelle. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Deborah Hampton, and I am co-president of the League of Women Voters of the Homewood-Flossmoor area. Before we begin, I'd like to express our gratitude for all those who have made this event possible. First, I want to thank Janelle. Thank you, Janelle. Janelle is the Executive Director of Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce. She's the one who was actually instrumental in initiating this entire process. We also want to thank the Moraine Valley Community College for the use of this great space. Thanks also to those interested community members who are with us in person and those who will view the video at a later date. And last, but certainly not least, we want to thank our candidates for attending today. We look forward to hearing your views on the issues that impact all of us. We are recording this forum, and you will be able to find the video on the state website, lwv.org, and on the Chamber website, which is chicagosouthlandchamber.com. You can also find it on our nonpartisan online Vote 411 voter guide. We're also live streaming this event in addition to the Southland Chamber. Today's forum is being staffed by the Leagues of Women Voters from across the area, including the Leagues of Homewood-Flossmoor area and Palos Orland. Membership in the League of Women Voters is open to all ages 16 and over. Our new membership portal allows those who can't afford the standard $75 membership fee can join for as little as $20. The membership portal can be accessed by scanning the QR code that you see on your program. The League of Women Voters Education Fund sponsors the Vote 411 org voter guide, and we encourage you all to check out this useful nonpartisan tool as you make your voting plan. On Monday, March 2nd, Early voting opens in locations throughout Cook County. You can refer to the county clerk's website for voting locations. I want to stress that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We do not support or oppose any candidate or party. Now I'd like to return the program to our moderator, Barb Lyman from the League of Women Voters of Wheaton, who will take us through the first set of candidates. There were 9 candidates in one race, and that's a lot to properly cover in one forum. For this reason, we split this group of candidates into 2 sessions. Are we going to have a second session? Actually, we're only going to have 1 session, so we're combining the 2 sessions. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Barb at this time. Barb.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me to be moderating today's candidate forum for the Democratic nomination for Illinois Congressional District 2. The Republican race is uncontested, therefore there is no need for a forum. Throughout its history, the League of Women Voters has been providing opportunities for candidates seeking public office to speak directly to the voters through nonpartisan forums. This format gives the general public an opportunity to participate in the electoral process by asking questions of the candidates about issues that concern them. This is a terrific opportunity for civic discourse, and I encourage our audience to ask your questions of the candidates. Please write your questions on the cards that are being provided by and will be picked up by League volunteers. Questions from the audience will be screened for appropriateness for the particular office and to avoid duplication, as well as to maximize our time we have allotted. Before I begin, I would like to reiterate some of the League ground rules for candidate forums. The candidates attending today have signed and returned the ground rules and broadcast agreement by the deadline established in the invitation. This document specifies the format, time limits, and other rules related to the conduct of the forum, and I will be responsible for enforcing these rules. Today, the League chose to use the ballot order to determine who will go first with their opening statement. The candidates will then alternate the order in which they answer questions. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give a closing statement. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for their opening statement, up to 1.5 minutes to respond to each question, and 1 minute to make their closing statement. Their responses will be timed by a team of League volunteers, and the timer will give a 1 minute, a 30-second warning, and 15 seconds if needed. The format for today is a candidate forum and not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts. The League of Women Voters is not responsible for the accuracy of statements made by the candidates. It's the responsibility of the public to fact-check statements made by the candidates if deemed necessary. This forum is held as a service to the community and to voters so that they can hear directly from the candidates regarding their qualifications for their respective offices. Candidates' responses reflect their own views and opinions, and they will refrain from commenting on the views of other candidates. The event, as has been said, is being live streamed on the Southland Chamber of Commerce Facebook page. The League claims copyright ownership of any recording and transcript produced of the forum. The forum will be posted in its entirety on the League of Women Voters of Illinois website, the Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce website, and social media platforms, and the Vote 411 online non-participation voter guide. Any other use of the forum recording requires an express written approval of the League. Audio and video must be broadcast unedited and in its entirety, except by the media reporting on the events. For those in the audience today, we request that you do not take photos or video during the forum. It is a distraction to other members of the audience, And to the candidates, please listen attentively, turn off your phones and electronic devices, avoid commenting or disrupting others during the forum, and refrain from applause until the end of this forum. Finally, I do want to emphasize how grateful we are to the candidates who are not only willing to serve in office, but have agreed to participate this afternoon. In our experience, holding an interesting and educational forum was going to be somewhat overwhelming for our audience. But due to obligations of other candidates, we are now just going to be holding one forum. So therefore, I'd like to welcome them to the stage and thank them for joining us. And let's begin with opening statements. Candidate France, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League and the Chamber for putting this together and you all for showing up today. My name is Eric France. I am the son of 2 public servants. My mother worked in the juvenile court system until her retirement. And my father, the late Dr. Irwin A. France, ran the anti-poverty programs in the 60s and the 70s in the city of Chicago. That having been said, I never thought I'd be redoing the work that he did during that time now. I am a land developer and management consultant by trade. I've spent my years cutting my teeth in the private sector mostly, but doing public sector consulting also. I've represented everyone from Fortune 5 companies to grassroots organizations. I've built more than 2,000 units of housing just in the state of Illinois alone, but done projects around this country. I've seen better and I know we can do better. As I said, I work around this entire country. I've seen what it looks like to be successful and I know we can. There was a time when we wanted for nothing in the 2nd District, now we want for everything. The whole district has become a needed empowerment zone. We only have 2 economic thriving areas that are really working, and that's Homewood and Hyde Park. The district goes all the way down to Danville from 43rd Street in Chicago. That is a problem for us. We've got to turn this thing around, make it happen in a way, and do something different. The same old ideas are not working. The people who have been in place have not gotten it done. That is why I'm here. I want to do what I do every day and do it for the district to make life better. That's my time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Candidate Peters, your 2-minute opening statement, please.
Yes, I want to thank the Southland Chamber. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and thank everybody for being here. You know, we're in the midst of a crisis that the president has played a key role in causing. But we also have to acknowledge that this crisis had a buildup, that people have been struggling for decades. That's led us to having Donald Trump become president. He has taken advantage of a period of deep isolation and alienation for folks. See, I was born hard of hearing and developed a very difficult speech impediment. And I was adopted. I was adopted by a civil rights lawyer for a father and a social worker for a mom. My mom was an alcoholic. She struggled with addiction issues. She was abusive. It was hard and difficult for myself and my sisters. But I had neighbors who had a door open during a time of need. And they looked out for me. There was a sense of a village. There was a sense of community. But over the last 30 to 40 years, we've seen massive disinvestment, massive isolation, people struggling and trying to get by with less and less. And so we need to defeat Donald Trump because he is a product of that isolation. And we need to defeat Trumpism. And the way we do that is by having a vision. You know, it says in the book of Proverbs, without a vision, the people will perish. We live in the richest, most powerful country in the history of the planet. We should guarantee people good health care. We should guarantee people good housing. We should guarantee people a secure retirement. We can give people the safety, comfort, and dignity they deserve. That is how we defeat Trump, and that is how we defeat Trumpism. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Preston?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, thank you. I just want to start off by recognizing civil rights titan, the late, great Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., and extend my strongest and sincere condolences to his family. I'm State Senator Willie Preston, and I offer a fresh start. I haven't been in office for decades. I've been in office for 3 years. In that short time, I've developed and I've built things that people can actually see, feel, touch, and benefit from. I'm a family man. My wife and I, we have 6 children and we have a 3-year-old grandson. I am not immune from bad decisions that I made in Washington, D.C. Now, I've told everyone the honest to God truth my entire career, and I'm not gonna stop. You know, I wasn't supposed to be a politician. I started my career as a janitor, cleaning hospital floors, a safety net hospital. I was a butcher. I worked overnight at Home Depot. I became a carpenter and started a small home remodeling business with my wife. The Second Congressional District is a working class district. And you know what working class people do? They work. And it's time for us to make sure that we build the infrastructure so that the next generation can work. I offer you realness, honesty, and sometimes confrontation with people who would choose to see our communities continue going downward. If you elect me to Congress, I'm gonna build a level 2 trauma hospital so that our people stop dying unnecessarily. I'm gonna build birthing centers so Black women are not having children on the side of the expressway like a woman did from Dalton last year. I'm gonna build a trade school. So we build not just buildings, airports, but the next generation of carpenters, plumbers, electricians. I ask you all to go to my website, electpreston.com, to find out more about me. Thank the League of Women Voters and all the people responsible for this. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate Regis, your 2-minute opening statement.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce, as well as the League of Women Voters for having us today. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge somebody in the room, an unsung hero, very modest man, Rick Bryan, who's worked both for former Councilman Jackson and now Councilman Robin Kelly, who's also been responsible for all the development we've actually seen in Pullman right now. I want to acknowledge Rick. My name is Adele Regis. I'm running for United States Congress, looking to replace my former boss, Congressman Robin Kelly, who, as you know, is running for U.S. Senate. I want to build on something she's done, but I also want to bring some fresh perspective in light of everything that's happening right now. And here's why I'm running. Because I recognize that people are suffering, and there's not a lot of conversation around that. Unfortunately, the current president passed a bill last year, so-called Big Beautiful Bill, that's only going to benefit a small percentage of people, while the rest of us are getting screwed in the process. They're cutting federal funding, $1 trillion worth of federal dollars for Medicaid and Medicare, which I'm assuming somebody in the room is going to be impacted, or somebody you know is going to be impacted. And I use my mother as an example. She's a widow with 5 kids. We're going to step up if she loses her health insurance, and we're going to make sure she's all right. But not everybody has that support system. And for some people, that's going to mean life or death. In the rural parts of the district, that means some hospitals may close down or have to cut their services because of the revenues that get generated from patients with Medicaid and Medicare. Not to mention they're giving tax breaks to folks making $450K or more, while not only are we paying high taxes already, but they're even cutting SNAP benefits, which means people got to feed their families, and they either have to get innovative, or I'm concerned that that might lead to crime because people have to feed their families if they even take away SNAP benefits. So I'm stepping in to amplify the voices of those who've been marginalized, but also again to build on some of the success we've seen in the district and scale it and expand it so that we can now move the Second Congressional and be more in line with the 21st century economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The first question will begin with Candidate Peters. Candidate Peters, what specific immigration policy reforms do you support, and how would you ensure they both protect public safety and uphold constitutional rights?
Yeah, I mean, I take a lot of pride in sort of the solidarity work that we need in this moment. You know, in 2019, my first year as a state senator, I helped pass the bill that banned private detention centers. They were building 1,000-bed detention center in Dwight, Illinois, and I worked with folks, myself and Rep. Cassidy, to ban private detention centers and make Illinois a leader on this. And so I would say at the federal level, we need to abolish ICE because it is essentially a military tool, it's a dated military tool. And so what we need to do is say, how do we have a humane practice when it comes to immigration? How do we make it easier for people to get citizenship? How do we use the levers of making sure that our neighbors are stable from Venezuela to Central America? And how do we make sure that we're funding the things that we need at home? We're the richest, most powerful country on the history of the planet. Instead of having communities that have been disinvested in, we We need to put investment in them, and we can't be draining resources out of places like Venezuela. So how do we make sure that we are demilitarizing our immigration process, making sure our neighbors are stable, and continuing to do what we need to do at home? And the one way we can do that is saying, instead of having all these billionaires making all this money who got tax breaks from Donald Trump, is that we end that and we take that money and we put it in our communities where we need it most.
Thank you. Candidate Preston, what specific immigration policy reforms do you support, and how would you ensure they both protect public safety and uphold constitutional rights?
Thank you very much. One of the things that I think we have to acknowledge is that we have destabilized the region being some of the South American nations, which has caused a shift of people running, fleeing north. And so I would, as the next United States Congressman from the Second Congressional District, I would force or fight to reduce and stop some of these sanctions. Venezuela is a very rich nation. I spoke to a Venezuelan who was a waiter recently. He said he wants to go home, but he is running from poverty that should not exist in that region. Meanwhile, you have people here on this side of the border, my people, black people, who feel that they've been overlooked for decades. And so pitting against Israel. And so I think that we lift some of these sanctions, we stabilize the region and respect our neighbors enough where their countries who have natural wealth already are not destabilized to the degree that their people are fleeing away from their natural homelands. And so that's, I'll close with that. In a second, I'm gonna watch you.
Thank you. Candidate Regis?
Sure.
What specific immigration policy reforms do you support, and how would you ensure they both protect public safety and uphold constitutional rights?
Firstly, let me say, as the son of Haitian immigrants who left Haiti in the 60s, fled from an authoritarian government, I'm very sympathetic to the cause of the migrants. Especially since I tell people all the time, the irony of it is my parents left Haiti to come here, fleeing an authoritarian government, but then their kids and their grandkids have to face the same reality right now. I believe the issue of immigration is a very nuanced one, and here's why. I believe we should be addressing the path for citizenship, especially as President Obama championed the DREAMS Act, to ensure that a lot of folks who've been in the shadows, who came in, who didn't ask to be here, came in as kids, 11 years old, have no recollection or remembrance of the country that their parents took them and brought them here for a better life. I believe we should make us advocate for a pathway for them to make sure that they are recognized, if you will, and have job opportunities as well as citizens. But also, I believe it's important for us to enforce our borders because it's a question of national security. And so finding a healthy balance between making sure we protect the right of migrants here today, and I do agree with Senator Preston, being that the United States have played a major role in Latin America in destabilizing of these countries. We need to start having a further down the line conversation about something, for instance, former presidential candidate Castro talked about, which is a Marshall Plan, where we're developing a relationship with the United States and our surrounding countries that's more on mutual partnership versus exploitation that's causing a lot of these countries to be poor where people are migrating here today. So again, my position is very nuanced. We make sure a pathway to citizenship for those already here, but also making sure we enforce our borders as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And once again, candidate friends, what specific immigration policy reforms do you support, and how would you ensure that they both protect public safety and uphold constitutional rights?
First off, we need to abolish ICE. That's step number one. Number two, we need to rebuild it with sensitivity and compassion. There's a way that this can be done, and it's better than what we've been doing. The third thing that we need to do is level the playing field on how we accept immigrants and give them a speedy path to citizenship. It's unconscionable that it takes us 10 and 25 years just to process some and to never process others. The other piece of it is, when it comes to coming into this country, I need a Haitian immigrant to be treated the same way a Cuban immigrant is treated. We shouldn't have classes where a European immigrant has an easy path and a Haitian and a Cuban has a hard path. There needs to be one level set of rules, and there needs to be a standard by the DOJ and by border enforcement that we can all hold to, and some consequences when it's not. Right now, when it comes to it, there's no help for people when they're not treated fairly, and we need to make sure that that happens. So it's a total reform of the system as it exists. but we have some good things in place like the DACA. It's okay, but we need to be speedy about it and make sure that we have kids and parents who are kept together and not separated apart, especially saying the kids didn't ask to be here. They're kids. We need to take care of them. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will begin with candidate Preston. What is your viewpoint on the balance of power between states' rights and the federal government?
Thank you for that question. I don't like to go in any rooms without educating people. It's the state government that created the federal government. We need to always respect states' rights. But the truth of the matter is the federal government is the unifying body of government. I think what's important about this states' rights versus federal rights, is that we have a Supreme Court that is actually able to be nonpartisan. And I'm grateful that this Supreme Court just yesterday limited the president's powers to enact these ridiculous tariffs all throughout the world as destabilizing the world economy. Look, I ran the Illinois Food Safety Act. That is to make sure that we get rid of these terrible food additives that's causing cancer within our food supply, because in Europe, 27 countries alone don't allow it. If the federal government had have taken that role, that job through the FDA, I would have never ran that piece of legislation on a bipartisan basis. But I have a right to protect the people of Illinois with my legislative powers today. But if the federal government were to come in and trump that, I think the states would have to acknowledge and adhere to it. Because at the end of the day, regardless of who's in power, which party, we have to be a united States of America.
Thank you. Candidate Regis, the same question.
Sure, I mean, we fought over this years ago, but today is taking a new front. First, let's recognize the U.S. is very diverse. The Northeast, North, South, West Coast, and so on in the Midwest. And I believe it's very important for states to be able to preserve certain elements of their identity, which should be protected through their own legislation. I think that's important. However, what we're seeing that's happening also right now is the fact that the wealth inequity gap in this country is widening. And we're seeing that folks on the right are using states' rights as an argument, so to speak, if you will, or let them do what they want to do, that's their choice. While we're seeing a lack of accountability or even the federal government checking in on some of the state actors, if you will, to limit some of that infringement. I believe at this point in the issue we're at right now, that number one, we should simply reprioritize the federal government's position on certain things, because in one hand they're talking about smaller government, but they also talking about building in they just invested $500 billion on in AI, which is going to be replacing a lot of jobs, and it's not being regulated. And they're saying states should have the right to do whatever they want to do with that. I think that's a problem. I think the federal government should be stepping in and regulating states if they're going to capitalize on that and causing people to lose their jobs. I believe also the federal government should be playing the job that it was doing, especially after Lincoln, well not Lincoln, yes, sorry, after we had, we went a whole war over this situation, state right and Confederate right. I'll have more to say after that, but thank you for I use my time.
Thank you. Candidate France?
Can you
What is
repeat?
your, do you need the question repeated?
Yes, please.
What is your viewpoint on the balance of power between states' rights and federal governance?
I think the states need their rights unless the federal government is going to fully fund states in areas like education and housing and job creation, which they do not do. States deserve their rights to control their own futures. We depend on the federal government to do things that have a more international piece, and that's important. But you cannot come in my backyard and tell us what to do unless you're coming with a check. And as we've seen in the past, they've not shown up with the check. Every year we know we've got an education problem and funding schools fully. And every year we're short on the money, and I don't see it coming from the federal government. We have to make those sacrifices and make those choices, so we don't need the federal government telling us how to do it until they come with a check.
Thank you. And Candidate Peters?
Yes, I mean, I think about the Civil War. Before the Civil War, people would say, these United States of America, and after we beat the traitors in the Civil War, it became the United States of America. I think about FDR and the New Deal and the promise of making sure that we have a federal government that is doing good for you, even if it's at the state level, and moving that money to the state level. And so what I would say is we're in a unique time and unique period because Donald Trump has exhibited strong federal power, but I want to point out it's targeted. He's only expressing strong federal action on blue states, and he's doing nothing in terms of anything negative to red states. And so he is actually not having a conversation about states' rights versus federal rights. It's about what Donald Trump wants to do to punish a state and how Donald Trump benefits from something. And that is the difference between how he's treating Illinois and how he's treating Indiana. And so, to me, there's a reason why we fought the Civil War, to end slavery and to reiterate the power of the federal government to institute law. And there's a vision in order that everybody in every corner of this rich country deserves to have things like healthcare and good housing, secure retirement. And what we don't need is a president who picks and chooses when they want to use the federal government to punish and reward different states.
Thank you. Candidates, the next question is this. The South Suburban Airport has been debated for decades, and recent efforts have stalled. Do you support or oppose this proposed third airport? And what concrete steps would you take to ensure that if built, it delivers real economic benefit to the Southland? And we'll begin with candidate Regis.
Yes. Like I said earlier, I acknowledge Rick Bryant. When I worked for the Congresswoman, we worked very closely. Now I've had the opportunity of listening to how much this project, which by the way, yes, I support, would be generating $2.5 billion for the state and create 8,000 jobs. By the way, especially in the south suburbs, people that's been disinvested if we gonna keep it 100%. This would be an economic engine for the area, number one, which number two would tip the scale a little bit, where, again, we've seen the difference between the north side and the south side, lack of investment. I think the airport is something that we need. But in terms of concrete steps, how do we do it? We do know that right now the governor is the one that gets to decide what to do with that land. So it's about working with the governor to making sure that we bring that conversation back at the forefront of the conversation. But I'm very much in support of the South Suburban Airport. Again, it'll be creating 8,000 jobs, and it'll be generating $2.5 billion for a state. Oh, I got 30 seconds, so I got more to say about this. Thank you. Look, that airport is an opportunity to level the playing field, okay? We've seen a lot of the investment because we live in a segregated state. That's just the reality of it. A lot of the money goes up north, not enough on the south side. You create that airport, you build it there, it's gonna give the folks further down south an opportunity to have jobs and also to keep the money circulating in that area, which in turn, as you know, will be reducing the possibility of crime and a lot of everything that's happening right now since we're expecting less investment coming in because the governor and the president are beefing.
Thank you. Candidate France, do you support the proposed third airport, and what steps would you take to ensure that if built, it delivers real economic benefit to the Southland?
I supported the third airport 30 years ago when they first started talking about it, but not the airport they wanted to build. Do your research. The Abraham Lincoln Airport, as it was to be called, was going to be a private airport for private planes to land in and out of, which does nothing for the economy. I don't have a private plane. I don't know about any of you, so it wouldn't do much for me. The airport that needs to be there is an international cargo and passenger arena. Just what's been done in South Bend, Indiana, just what they're starting to talk about doing in Gary, Indiana. While we've been talking about it, other people have been doing it right around us, taking away the opportunity. We lose $1 billion a year every year that we don't have that airport just in the 2nd District. I'm not even talking about the state of Illinois, but picture back to before O'Hare Airport existed, and there was nothing in Old Orchard or Schaumburg or anywhere else out there. That is the economic opportunity that you have to receive if that airport's going there, both north and south from that airport. It is a win for everyone if we can do it. But while we've been sitting waiting, if you go to South Bend, Indiana tomorrow, You'll see a train that goes right into that terminal, that airport where that international cargo and passenger arena is, and the other end drops you off at Michigan and Randolph. The window is closing. We don't have another 30 years to talk about it. We need to get the cargo companies to the table who can pay for it.
Thank you. Candidate Peters.
Yes, I support the airport, but I want to emphasize something. We often talk about this airport like it's going to be a passenger airport with large, United and American Airlines. It's not. The airport, as it's evolved, has evolved with the surrounding economy. It's going to be something that would be driven by cargo. Right now, companies like Amazon or FedEx, they go to Rockford generally, and then they truck it down. They take a truck down. This would essentially cut that down and say all the economic development in that area, this airport would serve that. And then it would be often having a, sort of smaller passenger airlines that go to very limited locations. And I think the problem is that we talk about this airport like it will be United and American, and it won't. The people who talk about that are not understanding the actual economics of what's going on in this moment. This airport is designed to undercut the economy in Rockford, undercut the economy in Gary, and be used to move your packages from the warehouse to your home. So,
Thank you. Candidate Preston?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Do you support or oppose this proposed third airport? And what concrete steps would you take to ensure that if built, it delivers real economic benefit to the Southland?
I'm sorry, I actually repeat the question because I thought I was 11 years old again. Because I've heard this since I was 11 years old. I support rebuilding Harvey. I support building a trade school so that the next generation of carpenters, plumbers, electricians are able to actually build whatever we build because they have the proper training to do so. I support building Fort Heights up, Dixmoor from up underneath that town, Riverdale, because the pipes are bursting every other week. We have to get to a place where people are sitting on stages like this and have the honor to serve like I'm serving in the state senate right now, but people are being honest to you about what is feasible. So no, I want to focus right now on building the infrastructure of the towns like Harvey, Illinois, Dalton, Illinois, and that's where I'm going to focus at. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, because I'm going to do it if you elect me to Congress. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate France, this question will begin with you. With the federal attack on DEI, can you be effective to ensure that marginalized people and their businesses can continue to thrive?
First off, I think everything that's been taken away needs to be restored and then doubled, because it was insignificant before they took it away. Black women, especially in America, are under attack right now. They're getting the double whammy from it. The bottom line is we need to expand protections and fair workplaces for all, not just some who are rich and who control the jobs. We need to make sure that we have a right to work, meaning in a safe place where people feel comfortable unionizing and protecting themselves on the workplace, not just for a few. When it comes to DEI, these programs were invented for a reason, because the playing field wasn't level before. So with the disappearing of DEI, with the disappearance of affirmative action, and every other protection that we've had to level the playing field, it does not make it safe for anyone to go down in the future.
Candidate Peters, the same question. Sure. With the federal attack on DEI, can you be effective ensuring that marginalized people and their businesses can continue to thrive?
I mean, we have to acknowledge what this attack is. It's a racist attack. It is a response to the work we've done in terms of the civil rights every year after that. It's a response, a reactionary response to the protests in 2020. Protests that had been going on for over a decade, literally stretching from the murder of Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman getting off for it, the sort of spark to the Black Lives Matter movement, to 2020. And this is revenge by an administration that is literally has hiring 22-year-old fascists to use AI to then attack our programs and specifically our state and make it difficult for Black people to be able to have the safety and comfort that we have longed searched for. And so let's be clear, we are in a fight against an unspeakable level of authoritarianism. And so it's going to require us to organize and fight back against it. We'll keep challenging. I mean, at the state level, that's what we do. But what we do know is like we're being under attack by this administration because they are upset about what we were able to organize year after year. And we're back into the same fights we had during the civil rights movement. So it's going to require us to fight back against this movement, and I will do everything I can to fight back against this white supremacist movement.
Thank you. Candidate Preston.
I've been a fighter my entire life. I was an activist with Laquan McDonald. I got off the ground. We fought back. They told us it was impossible. This was Rahm Emanuel. You can't beat him. He's no longer the president, no longer the mayor of the city of Chicago. Same thing with the then superintendent of police, same thing with the Cook County State's attorney. I bring this up this way because in order for us to push back on DEI, we're not gonna just have to send another congressman, we have to send a fighter. And I'm gonna do that. And I'm proving what I can do as a fighter already as a state senator. When I get to Congress, I'm gonna join the DEI caucus to make sure that this is a priority of the 2nd Congressional District. I'm going to help start the SNAP caucus because I know what it's like to live off food stamps. My mother used to send me to the corner store with a book of stamps when they get books of stamps. And so I will say you can push back, not against you, but on the notion that minority businesses are thriving. They're not. They're not thriving. They're not thriving because we haven't prioritized their thriving. I'm going to prioritize that as the next congressperson to make sure that our federal government is being equitable in terms of who they contract with. I confronted McCormick Place in a committee hearing as a state senator and asked them, how much money business do you do, McCormick Place, with African-American companies? They said 5. I said, 5 what? They said $5,000. I said, don't ever come back to Springfield until that number's changed. And I'm in it.
Candidate Regis.
The short answer is I'm very full support of reinstating DEI, but we need to also have an honest conversation. DEI was also supposed to protect Black women, and they were not the ones who got the good share when we were talking about equitable distribution for that group. We need to have an honest conversation about it. So if we're going to reinstate DEI, we also need to have a conversation about how those opportunities are being distributed equitably to benefit everybody and not just a subgroup. Regarding the minority businesses, look, as far as I've noticed in the last budget, Congress has actually been supportive of funding initiative to making sure that the money was coming to minority-owned businesses. Okay, bipartisan, by the way, bipartisan. What the president is doing is this. He decided, okay, so you guys agreed to support a budget to fund minority businesses, right? Even though he proposed a major cut. He gutted the money for workers who were supposed to enforce the policies. So even though the money was there, it's there, bipartisan, they actually pushed back against the president, Democrat and Republican. What he did was he kept from people to work to enforce and making sure the money's coming in. Same thing with SBA. There was money that was passed in the SBA, which helps which provide additional support to minority-owned businesses, right? Like the Women's Center and so on, or SB SCORE. What did he do? He's trying to gut money from employing people to making sure that the money goes through. That's how, in my opinion, we need to approach this, putting some level of accountability on the president and slowing that down.
I'm sorry, candidate, your time is up. Our next question will begin with candidate Peters. There has been discussion of social media bans for children across many nations. Do you suppose something similar could be how it's done in the United States?
You know, I'll be honest with you, I go back and forth with this because social media has been just so toxic. It has become a disgusting environment. And the way I would prefer is that we actually just hold the tech companies accountable instead of always going at the consumer of it. You know, right now, if you think about it, Mark Zuckerberg is in Hawaii building basically an entire island with a compound, and he's doing it profiting off of terribly alienating and isolating information onto people, and he's essentially content farming himself billions of dollars for his own private island. The other person who owns a large social media platform is Elon Musk, who owns X, and in his Tesla board meeting, he created incentives that would allow him to become a trillionaire. You know, when we think about, Google and its expansion in terms of how it treats AI, and its push to basically prevent regulations around its behavior. To me, we do need to make sure we have social media that's working for all of us. It's our one place on the internet to have a town center, a town square, to have a dialogue. But one way for us to truly ensure that is to make sure the billionaire CEOs don't profit off of causing so much chaos and pain, particularly when it comes to young people and it comes to us. Remember, January 6th was organized online. So, thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Preston.
Willie Preston III. Joshua, sitting there. Joshua Preston. Elizabeth. I think about all my children. I have 6 children. The answer is yes. I look at these children, they have the highest levels of depression. My daughter Lindsay says, it's too much all the time. My little daughter Brittany, Lamar, Lear. I'm a father. I'm a family man, and I'm gonna take that with me in my work. Children are suffering from obesity, bullying, all of these things. And they're online, torturing each other. I led a bill, and I'm going to continue to push this bill, age verification. I agree with, and I'll associate myself with you to the extent that we do need to hold these social media companies accountable. And here's how we do it. Age verification. Every time we buy one of these devices, we should know if you're a child or an adult. Because children are on pornography sites. They're exposed to too much in this big world. And we have to make sure that we hold these social media companies accountable. But there needs to be a threshold. Right now, if you're 13 years old, you shouldn't be allowed to be on social media. That's part of the rules now. But you got a lot of kids that are 12 years old that are 35 online. Because that's what they say. They just say, I'm 35. And so we have to stop this. If you're 13, you shouldn't be allowed to be on social media in America. And you see other children thriving across the world where these countries have banned it. We have to think big, and we have to do what's right for the children.
Thank you. Candidate Regis?
Would you please repeat the question?
Sure. There has been discussion of social media bans for children across many nations. Do you support something similar in the United States?
I think that decision should be left to the families to decide what level of access they're giving to their kids in terms of whether or not to use social media. I think that right should be exclusively let the family make that decision. But I'll say this, we are in a time when a lot of companies, or major interest groups are using social media as a tool for disinformation, to the point where we're all living in our own bubble, algorithmic bubble, if you will, where what you're receiving on your feed and what that person receiving could be 2 completely different things, to the point where when we all gather, we're having different conversation, almost as if we're in different realities. I believe we should be regulating the companies and making sure that we put oversight and ensure that the information that's being circulated in social media is actually, if you will, accurate, number 1. And yes, number 2, we should put an age limit, parental consent, kind of like how we do with Netflix, in making sure what type of information that they have access to when they start using social media. So I believe there's a balance, because I'm careful about not infringing in families' rights on how they want to raise their kids and what type of liberties and how they want to go about things. I'm very careful about that. But I believe if we want to hold somebody accountable and regulate, it should be the social media companies, making sure they stop spreading disinformation, number 1. And number 2, we're ensuring that there is parental consent for kids of a certain age group, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate France?
You can't ask the fox to watch the hen house. Parents have to be involved in this. So I have a unique perspective because I'm the father of children who were the first kids to grow up in the age of social media as teenagers. So my practical experience is my wife and I had to be involved and set certain parental controls, because the federal government had not done so like they did with the advent of radio and TV 100 years ago. We need such an authority, such as an FCC, that sets standards and practices that holds the corporations accountable, but that does not stop the parents from being accountable. They also need to play a part in it and use good common sense. We've got to put the standards, though, through in the standards and practices via the federal government and create such an agency that's fair and does not allow Mark Zuckerberg or anybody else to decide what our kids can and cannot see or how often they see it. These things have to be put in place if that medium is going to thrive, because guess what? It's going to grow. We're going to be a victim of it one way or the other anyway, so if we don't start setting standards and practices, we are in trouble.
Thank you. Candidates, the next question is, please elaborate on your experience managing a staff and providing constituent services. How do you prioritize to make sure all citizens are heard and addressed? Candidate Preston, we'll begin with you.
When I ran for public office, I announced my campaign, people started laughing. The other guy was so connected. He had every politician, every state senator endorsed him, basically. And we beat him by a lot. How did we do it? Because I was already involved in the communities that I served. Although I was outspent 30-1, they knew Willie Preston. When I got elected, I compelled my staff to make sure that you don't stay in the office, you stay in the community. And so you will see in the 16th district, my staff, you will have an intimate relationship with them, and we will host regular quarterly town halls and everything in between to respond to issues that come up. I pride myself on having the best constituent services inside of the state of Illinois. I'm going to continue that if elected at the federal level, because the truth of the matter is my focus has always been and always will be on the people that actually live and thrive inside of my district that I serve. I'm going to keep that focus going. I appreciate Congresswoman Kelly's office because she does a pretty good job at constituent services. I want to make sure that we keep that and actually thrive and grow it. So I'm expecting some of you in the 2nd Congressional District, because volunteers make my constituent services the best in the state. It's not just my staff. We don't have enough staff. But if if I'm elected to Congress, I'm going to expect you all to help us deliver the best constituent services that this state has to offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Regis.
Yes. I do want to thank Senator Preston for acknowledging the quality of service that Congresswoman Kelly provides as somebody who's working in that office as district representative, providing constituent services, and also as a grant specialist whose job was to make sure that I track the federal dollars and making sure that nonprofit organizations and local government were applying for them. To answer your question, number one, I've also overseen a group of professionals of different ages. As somebody who founded a mentorship program that works at-risk youth. These are people of different walks of life, different backgrounds, different perspectives. And it was important for us to have them in the room to work and mentor the future. And we wanted to teach them that different does not equal deficient. And so it would take the same philosophy as I've been doing, including my current job, where I work right now for Elevate Energy, where we make sure that money is coming into disinvested communities that are looking to address climate justice, environmental justice, if you will. It's simple in terms of, sorry.
Thank you. You still?
Yes.
Okay.
So, to make a long story short, my philosophy is this. At the end of the day, as a representative, our job is to serve people no matter what their political ideology is. They're taxpayers. So we continue the tradition, as we just mentioned earlier, about providing good constituent services, okay, making sure that it's an open door policy, like we've always done, and making sure that the veterans get their support when they come in for VA stuff. The folks who are looking for their passports because they got an emergency trip where they got to go somewhere, maybe a funeral and so on, or support a family member's graduation somewhere. Just continue that stale service that already exists in the 2nd Congressional.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
You do very well now taking a breath to let me stop you. Great lung control. You must work out. Thank you. We want to welcome candidate Miller, who's joined us. And candidate Miller, we're going to have you answer next. Could you please elaborate on your experience managing a staff and providing constituent services? How do you prioritize to make sure all citizens are heard and addressed? Candidate Miller, you have up to 1.5 minutes.
Thank you. I apologize for being late. We got our wires crossed. We thought this started at 2, and I was the keynote speaker at a large event that was just now. But yes, constituent services is something that's been the backbone of my campaign. Actually, I have 2 programs going on right now where constituents are out. We're doing a CPR training right this minute, my staff on the other side, and then we're also doing veteran constituent services in my office. So I have prioritized making sure that constituents' needs are addressed. Everything I know from a campaign standpoint and a transparency standpoint, I make sure that my community knows. I send out a letter, goes out a community e-blast that goes out to 10,000 people. I built that list up over time. I also have my staff reach out to constituents and the mayors. I have a mayor's call every month, 30-minute mayor's call, where the mayors I'm talking to. So I would carry those same issues on with me as I become the congresswoman. And this district is very large, so we would need to have at least 3 different constituency-based offices where we cover multiple areas so that we're making sure everybody is represented based off of the area they live in. And then I have an open door policy. Anyone can come to my office to talk about anything they like. Anyone can come and send us a letter about anything, and we address those. I have an excellent staff, which I'm very proud of, and many of you probably have even been in touch with them in some way. I know the League of Women Voters has. And I pride myself on that, and I will continue to do that in my current role, in my next role as commissioner.
Thank you. Candidate France.
First off, I understand you have to listen before you can lead. We should stay in the community at all times. And I would have a staff that did such, whether I was there or not. My staff should always be there and available to work with whomever, whenever, to make sure that the constituent services are delivered in a timely manner and things are escalated accordingly. As Don Miller just said, yes, this is a very large district, 4,500 square miles from 43rd Street to Danville. We will definitely need multiple offices, but what we definitely have to understand is everybody doesn't have the same problems at 43rd Street that they do in Danville. But the one common problem that we all do have is economic development and job creation. Those things need to be given paramount attention so that we can affect a change in those areas. I think the day-to-day things that we've heard about in terms of getting passports processed and other pieces, I don't think that's our major concern. Our major concern is how we can live better lives at home and what we can do as a staff to deliver such services and such needs and protect the people of the 2nd District. That's the paramount piece of work that needs to be done.
Thank you. Candidate Regis. I'm sorry. Please proceed.
Okay. I'll just say this. I very much value and know how important staff is. My legislative aide has been with me since the very beginning of my career, and I'm very proud that last year she got awarded for being one of the best staffers in Springfield because she does amazing work. I've been able to pass 120 pieces of legislation, and my legislative aide is there every second. We literally have a whiteboard that goes through all the policies I'm proposing, and she tracks it and makes sure that she's on top of the meeting. She's amazing. My chief of staff and deputy chief of staff are unbelievable at what they do. And I always say, anytime something goes on in the office, it is my responsibility. I have to own it first before I can even think about my staff and what they're doing. If something doesn't go right, the first thing I have to ask myself is, what was my role in that? I have amazing staff. I want them to know that they should be able to take risks without getting punished, that they should grow and learn, and they should be able to move out of the role into something better for themselves. And I'll just say this, my district stretches from downtown Chicago all the way down to the southeast side, with Hyde Park in between. If someone calls from East St. Louis to my Senate district, we make sure to talk to them and we'll redirect them to their senator. We take any call from any place. Even as a member of Congress, I know that sometimes people can't even get to their own congressperson. They should know that my staff and my office is so open and helpful that they can call us and we can help them and we can be leaders in the state when it comes to constituent services. Thank you.
Thank you. We have so many other questions, but I'm afraid our time is coming to the close. So I hope those who didn't get their questions answered will ask them personally of the candidates at the end of the forum. So now I'd like to begin closing statements. And I would just like to let you know that I'd like to allow you a minute and a half for your closing statement so that you can address perhaps something that we didn't get a chance to ask. So a minute and a half to our timers, and we'll begin closing statements with candidate Regis.
Again, thank you for giving us the opportunity to share a platform with you today. My name is Adele Regis, and you can find more information about us on Regis for Congress. And again, is why I'm running. People are suffering. We can tell you everything you want to hear right now. At the end of the day, you go back, you check the mail, you see the bill. Cost of living is getting higher. It's becoming more and more harder to afford. Well, it's becoming harder to afford the American dream, if you will. Not just for you, but for people like me, people, my nephew, and so on. The future right now is looking a little bit bleak. I'm stepping up because I recognize that we are products of generations of sacrifices. I'm here today because somebody like you, if we got educators in the room, or nurses, or doctors, or social workers, somebody like you made it possible for me to stand here today. And this is me stepping up to pay my dues, to pump in some fresh perspective in Congress while taking a multi-generational approach to solve some of our problems. Again, my name is Adele Regis, looking to build on some of the work that already has been done in this district, but also adding in more, taking an innovative approach, especially tackling economic development for job creations, and prepping us, if you will, to be aligned with the 21st century as the economy is shifting right now, especially around tech, and as a lot of us might be left behind, considering the larger conversation where things are going right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Miller, you have a minute and a half for a closing statement.
Thank you. I am Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller. I proudly represented 36 municipalities in the south and southwest suburbs, including this one right here. Been here several times for community forums, and I'll continue to lead the same way I've done as a commissioner in Congress. I've been an advocate for women's health for decades, and I have been a steward of the public health as being the commissioner. We are the stewards of the public health. I have brought programs to the community, such as the first ever doula program for Cook County Hospital that is going to help protect women. I brought money for veterans, the first $2 million, got to start somewhere, the first $2 million ever for veterans programs. And I've also instituted the first ever restorative justice community court in the south suburbs. These are initiatives that are duplicatable. These are things that I would like to focus on and to continue to expand. I have represented proudly in the current role, and I will do so as the next congresswoman in this area. And I've been a member of the League of Women Voters for many years. And I want to uphold all of the values that I've fought for and stood for as a commissioner and bring in the community. I will be a representative of the entire 2nd Congressional District, urban, suburban, and rural. And I am number 1 on the ballot, punch 31, go Donna, go.
Thank you. Candidate France.
30 plus years of disinvestment in the 2nd Congressional District. A lot of us here came from the South, and families came from the South to live better lives in the North. So why is the state of Mississippi over-indexing the state of Illinois, and especially the 2nd Congressional District, in education, in healthcare, in job growth, and so on and so on? We gotta stop. We gotta do something differently. That is why I am here, to bring that expertise. I am the only one who's built affordable housing. I'm the only one that's done economic development. I'm the only one that's helped raise over $100 million in education for kids to go to school across this country and consistently do these things. We gotta take a look. We don't have another 30 years to lose. Donald Trump has not been here for 30 years. Our problems did not start with Donald Trump, and they will not end with Donald Trump. We have to take back our own futures now. This is why I'm here, so that we can put things back on the right path and put the professionals who know how to do these things in place. Clearly what we've been doing in the past hasn't been working. That's why we're here. So I ask you to go to www.franceforcongress.com. Check out my full platform. I know there's only so much we can get out in a forum like this. I am number 2 on the ballot, so please punch number 2 or 32 in Cook County, as it may be. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Candidate Peters.
Yes, thank you so much for having me here. You know, we're in the midst of a crisis, and we need people who are going to be able to fight back against that crisis. You know, I've been a state senator since 2019, been able to pass 120 pieces of legislation. I helped organize with a coalition to end cash bail, then carried the bill that ended cash bail, defended it from right-wing attacks, and made Illinois the first and only state that said that you can't be locked up simply because you're poor. I've worked with Governor Pritzker on the Illinois Healthcare Protection Act, taking on the insurance industry to make sure that when someone is seeking a treatment, they get the treatment their doctor recommends, not the insurance industry. We are in huge fights. I've been able to move $250 million to violence prevention, hundreds of millions of dollars to safety net hospitals. In this moment, we need people with a vision about how we can deliver in the richest, most powerful country in the history of the planet. I'm proud to be endorsed by Bernie Sanders, Tony Preckwinkle, National Nurses United, and so many other folks who are doing this work every day. And I ask for your guys' support. Please visit my website at www.robertpetersforcongress.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And Candidate Preston, your minute and a half closing statement.
I'm State Senator Willie Preston. I offer a fresh start from all of this. The question was asked today about an airport. Same question was asked in 1996 when I was 11 years old. I ran for public office not because I wanted to be a state senator. I was an activist and a family man working hard. I ran for state senate because I realized that if I did not step into this role, then it would continue to go the same way it's been going my entire life. I offer a fresh start. I'm going to fight to build a level 2 trauma hospital. That's going to happen if I'm elected Congress. I'm going to build maternal health centers. I'm going to build a trade school. I've built a number of things already in my short time as a state senator. But I'm going to tell you something. It's not going to change if Keith Boa from California has his way, or Ari Ackerman from New York has his way, or Diane Cohen from Florida has their way. These are Donald Trump donors and Donna Miller donors. They keep this system rigged. And if we don't stop it, 30 years from now, we're gonna have the same conversation. I offer a fresh start. I hope that you are welcoming a fresh start. We can get a lot of things done together. I'm gonna fight for us because I'm one of us. AlettePreston.com is my website. I hope you go out and check me out. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking the candidates for being here today. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Illinois and Homewood Flossmoor, we would like to thank our partner, the Chicago Southland Chamber of Commerce, for co-sponsoring this event. We'd also like to thank Moraine Valley Community College for opening up this wonderful space and their help with setup. Lastly, we'd like to give a shout out to all our volunteers who made the event possible. Our democracy thrives when all of us are engaged. Attending or watching a candidate forum is a great way for you to empower yourself to make an informed decision on Election Day. We encourage you to check out the League's nonpartisan online voter guide, Vote 411, and for more information on this race, as well as on all the other candidates and possible referendums that will be on your ballot. So, have a good rest of your day. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, where do you go? Oh. No, that's very good. Thank you.